Sound the PSYOP alarms. As you heard in the Fox News clip, the breaking news that alt-right media COINTELPRO agent Charlie Kirk was shot. And I'm going to show you the video footage in a minute, but you heard how that was worded on the live news. How he was talking about transgender issues as he was shot in his neck. That is what supposedly occurred. They wanted to let you know he was talking about transgender. After, of course, we see PSYOP after PSYOP after PSYOP to bring in red flag laws against transgenders, which are really going to be used against all of us once red flag laws are approved by conservative Christians and Trump brings them in and everybody agrees with it because Christians are now being targeted and conservatives are being targeted. Of course, we know that that'll flip on its head and they will then change the wording of what mental health problems are to the public as conspiracy theorists, and all they'll have to do is create a couple false flags around it like they did at Comet Ping Pong. So you heard the news clip. Now, obviously, we have to look at the footage and we have to see what comes of it before we can decide if it's a PSYOP or a false flag operation. The PSYOP, of course, being a government-created psychological operation for many agendas to come forward. There's many agendas that are tied to Charlie Kirk and the alt-right media. Lots of the stuff with the transgenders, lots of the stuff with the Muslims on college campuses. That is what we'll pay attention to because the government is not going to invest all this time and money into Charlie Kirk and the alt-right media, which they have funded from the beginning. They have silenced and removed channels like this from every platform that they can, except for platforms like Rumble or BitChute, which nobody watches because they don't want people to wake up to the fact that the news is simulated and that the left-right paradigm is the biggest problem and creation of the actual deep state. They want you stuck in the left-right. They want the left and the right at each other's throats, stripping one another of their rights day in and day out, and that's what all these stories are. So Charlie Kirk, who started Turning Point USA, who has tie-ins with Donald Trump, who interviews Donald Trump, who is a very wealthy person who they've allowed to become very wealthy, because again, the left-right is fully controlled. Here is the footage. As Charlie Kirk was throwing out hats, this is the footage that got out onto the internet and has become viral of Charlie Kirk being shot. Now, it looks from the footage that it could be somewhat real, but again, this is coming from a cell phone. And when we saw Donald Trump get shot, obviously, as soon as he stood up, we all knew what we were dealing with. The second that he stood up and pumped his fist in the air, we knew it was a production. So we will see the aftermath. But take a look at this footage of Charlie Kirk being shot at a Utah University college campus.
Oh my God. Go, run, run. Oh my God. Counting gang violence. Great. 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 Counting gang violence. Great.
So sure, you can look at that and you can say it looks real. If you know how these secret societies work, they will put these simulations out there for the greater good, for the greater cause. And if that means bringing in red flag laws and causing more division, as you're clearly seeing right now as Charlie Kirk is shot, a lot of the Democrats are saying, good, couldn't have happened to a better person. And it's getting the conservatives even angry because they're getting brainwashed now into thinking that the domestic terrorist is a Democrat. And the Democrats believe that a domestic terrorist are conservatives. And of course, they've lumped conservatives in with conspiracy theorists, even though the conservatives are taking government-created conspiracy theorists, or theories, I should say, like Jeffrey Epstein's flight log and QAnon. These are all government creations. They want to link people like us into the right-wing movement and link us in as being domestic terrorists. So they're creating all of these false flag events that we see. Going back even a couple of days ago, I talked about our latest transgender shooting at the church, all the same checkpoints that we look at when we look at government operations, right? We have manifestos. Now we have the common theme of a transgender shooter. We have a common theme of Christians being targeted. We have a common theme of Christian alt-right media conservatives saying that the government needs to do something because these people have mental health problems. Now, nobody disagrees that transgender people don't have mental health problems, but what nobody talks about is how these transgender mental health problems are brought on by MK Ultra and mind control programming that is getting fed to them through all these programs that they're watching. They're getting confused about their own gender and everything else. So these guys in the alt-right feed into it. Instead of talking about where this is coming from and why people are trans and why there's more gays and why this and why that and why there's division, all they do is keep everybody divided, and that's what their job is. So the government has invested so much in the alt-right media, it would make little sense to have them whack. Now, you can look at it and you could say, well, naturally, these people are causing so much division that people are doing monkey see, monkey do. They're seeing these things on TV. They're feeling inspired to go and shoot somebody or go and be an activist with violence because of the mind control programming of these psychological ops the government's created. So we can look at it and we can say, well, the way Charlie Kirk talks and stuff he talks about, could someone get riled up enough to shoot him? Well, definitely. Definitely. I mean, there's people out there who probably want to shoot me, and I don't even have an audience. So yeah, I'm sure there's lunatic Democrat people that want to shoot him, but keep in mind the amount of security that Charlie Kirk has. All of these guys, they have just as much security as the President of the United States. This isn't like me or you walking down the road. This is highly covered in security government agents. These aren't just going to be, well, Charlie Kirk has bodyguards and things like that. They have the Secret Service protecting all of these alt-right media people because they're so powerful and important to the government, just like they have all of these Democrats who, pretend like they're walking the streets, or people like Bill Gates who pretends he's in Times Square. If these people show their face in public, they are fully protected like a president of the United States is protected. There's no way to get near them. So, picking somebody from the alt-right media to get assassinated or shot is just something that we all expected. It's been discussed. I've talked about this in the past, that we could expect more psyops, whether it's around Trump or around potential figures in the alt-right media to martyr them, and they're just going to get more support like we saw with Trump. The psychosis is unpenetratable at this point. We can't get through to anybody in the alt-right because of that assassination attempt. It was easier early on to get through to them about some stuff. They say, oh yeah, now with the AI governance and everything Trump is bringing in, which is the New World Order infrastructure, nobody's paying attention to stuff that we're all yelling about because of the martyring of Trump and because of the assassination. They believe in their mind that they really wanted him dead. If they really wanted anybody dead, they kill them in a second. So for anybody out there wondering some of the stuff with Charlie Kirk, again, he appeared, he started this Turning Point USA, which, it's backed by millions of dollars. I mean, billions probably. It's a media conglomerate. If they call it a media operation, they want it to look like an organic YouTube channel or someone like me. Okay, this is uncensored. This is fully funded. These people are on YouTube, just like Russell Brand. These people are not removed. Okay, these people aren't wiped off the internet. These people are promoted. They want them there. They need the alt-right and they need the liberal media. That's how they keep people controlled in the hive mind, the left-right paradigm. So these are pictures of Kirk. Again, who came out of nowhere when Trump was running for president, the 666 hand sign, right? Everybody gives them a pass because somehow that means MAGA. But if you see Lady Gaga do it, you'll call Lady Gaga a Satanist holding up the 666, right? We've seen the triangle power, of course, many times, which a lot of the conservative Christians do with their hands, making the pyramid with their hands. He's done it with Candace Owens before, who I know a lot of people want to defend because of the stuff that Candace Owens has said recently about Israel. Look, you weren't hanging out and interviewing the president of the United States unless you're one of them. Always remember that. Candace Owens has interviewed the president. Charlie Kirk has interviewed the president. Candace Owens hangs out with Kanye West, okay? These people aren't more popular than us, okay? We know many, conspiracy theorists who are bigger than these people ever were. They're not more popular, and then those people want to get interviewed by them. They're buddies with one another. This is the system that we're in. This is the matrix, folks. Okay? Me or you, we're not getting near a president, let alone interviewing a president. Okay? If you went to a town fair for, president speaking, or candidates who are running speaking on national TV, you wouldn't be like, you think I'd be allowed in? And then they give me a microphone, there are background checks. I mean, the surveillance that they have on all of us is, it's unimaginable, really. But it's just more proof when these people get near the president and interview the president or at the Republican National Convention that they're all part of the show, which is funded by the CIA. This is the game, right? We even have Jack Poso, which, this guy had been warned about years ago. This guy jumped onto the scene, leached onto Pizzagate when we were all exposing Pizzagate, went to the place and suddenly got promoted and hanging out with all these alt-right guys that came out of nowhere. They came out of the sewers, literally, when Trump became president. They're going to the Republican National Convention. They're the new faces of the media. They're pretending to expose Pizzagate. That's what they all are. So you can even see him making a mockery, right? Illuminati confirmed because of the pyramid in the back of the dollar bill that's underneath Charlie Kirk, which they did right in front of everyone's face at the Republican National Convention. That's what they do. They mock this stuff. These are the same people who mock the hand signs. And they say, that's not really, that stuff's crazy lunatic talk. That's because these people have to reveal themselves with signs and symbols. So they want you to think that people like me and others out there in the past who have exposed those things are, lunatics and crazy. But it's true. It's 100% true if you understand how secret societies work. And speaking of which, here's even a handshake with Trump and Charlie Kirk. You could see the Maha bone, the real grip of a master mason, which is what it appears like to me. You can see both their hands clearly on one another's wrists. And like I said, Kirk, got pushed to the forefront of the conservative movement, and he pushes all the same agendas, which we have to look at when it comes to this shooting. Because what narratives come out of it, right? Recently, he's going crazy. Last night, he's on Fox News talking about the story that I just covered with the comical stabbing on that Charlotte train, where the girl's looking around in people's eyes. She's not screaming when she gets stabbed and suddenly falls on the floor and dies. And some people believe it because a puddle of blood appears underneath her. Oh my goodness. Do you believe that when you go to a haunted hayride too? Huh? I mean, give me a break. These things couldn't be more simulated. So he's obviously pushing for more National Guard to be brought in, lots of different laws to be changed because crime's running amok. He's pushing the racial agenda, the black and white, obviously pushing the trans stuff with the trans shooter and the anti-Christian hate. So they can bring in red flag laws. He's obviously a massive proponent for Israel, which is really all you need to know of these people who align. But again, there's going to be ones that don't align with Israel because it makes them look, it causes more division from within, which is what they want. Even with alt-right conservatives, they want them divided. Are you pro-Israel? Are you pro-Palestine? Oh, okay. Well, Candace Owens sides this way. He sides that way, right? And let them pretend to bicker with one another. You choose a side and we'll keep breaking you guys down and dividing you more, right? Because that's the name of the game. The more you can divide people over every little issue, the less unity there's going to be. So less chance of an uprising or something actually occurring. And Charlie Kirk is even, of course, he's all for these mass deportations. Those are the things that he talks about. These are all trigger points, okay? The border was a government creation so they could bring in digital IDs in the future, pass new laws, do these things with ICE that they're doing, which really could be used against people like us. And even recently I covered in a video on the website talking about how Charlie Kirk, saying robots can now pick apples, right? How convenient that these guys are all pushing the AI revolution, which the government is going to run through AI governance, like Klaus Schwab and all you guys have been telling you for years. What coincidence, right? Replace the Mexicans, replace the immigrants who are working illegally with robots. They're not going to take your job. It'll start there with immigrants and then work to the rest of us, right? Of course, they're all pushing the same exact stuff. So we'll see what comes out of it about this. Remember a lot of the stuff on the campuses about pro-Palestine, people on college campuses, Muslims on campuses. That's still a big issue. It's a big issue as far as rights go and civil rights and what they're going to do and how they're going to, how can they warp people's minds into looking at the domestic terrorist as this type of person or that type of person. And eventually, whatever it is now, eventually it's us. So when they talk about red flag laws and trans people, right? The point is to pass laws that give the government the right to come and take guns from people that they deem mentally unhealthy. And they're going to change those laws as time moves on. Once it's in place, that's what matters most. That's what they're trying to implement. Get National Guard into these democratic states so conservatives ask for it without realizing they're bringing in martial law. Flip the president. Put in some psycho like Gavin Newsom. And then who's the terrorist? Conspiracy theorists. People who search for this online. People who read that online. People who question Israel. Ooh, that's how this game works. So the footage looked, whatever. You say, well, look real. Well, when you see Trump standing on a stage and just falling back to the ground, when you see it for the first time and you see it in real time, you're going to go, oh my gosh, they shot him, right? But if you're awake, you're obviously going to start laughing because you know what they're doing. And when he stands up and holds his ear and pumps his fist and then is speaking publicly the next day, and, or a couple days later at the Republican National Convention, he's treated like the, Jesus Christ returned to earth. Then you go, oh, this is why they do it, right? Because this is what they produce. This is manufactured heroes, right? They're producing these people so that these people can influence your behavior and influence the things that they want to implement by making you want red flag laws, by making you want, Palestine, become more pro-Israel. Oh, the terrorists or anyone who's anti-Israel. Well, what a coincidence, right? But don't forget about the no-hide laws, how this all works. Because in the no-hide laws, okay, if you read the fine print, people who blame the Pharisees for murdering Jesus, who say anything about the synagogue of Satan in the book of Revelation, will be considered anti-Semitic, and those laws will be used for you. So pay attention to whether or not he survives or not. If he is dead, I still wouldn't be surprised if it's a psyop, if he is dead, but we have to see what comes out of it. Does he die, and then they make all these laws for him? So that, to honor his name, we're going to make these laws on college campuses. We're going to make these laws about who could buy guns, make laws about who's a mental health case and who isn't because of Charlie Kirk. Well, that's another way they could go. You got to see with all these events what comes out of it. It's easy to look at it and automatically go, a psyop, because most of these things are, right? But you watch the narratives out there, just like the clip I played in the beginning. The woman on the news had to make sure that she said he was speaking at that time. I'm getting word in my ear about transgender issues. Oh, how convenient. He's only on Fox News every day talking about transgender stuff, gaslighting, working people into a frenzy, into division. Why? Well, so they can pass these red flag laws. And this might be the psyop that actually gets it.
We are coming on the air with breaking news right now and an update on conservative activist Charlie Kirk. President Trump says that Kirk has died after he was shot from a nearby building about 200 yards away while he was speaking at Utah Valley University. Here is the Trump the president has just put out. I want to put this up. He posted it on Truth Social. He writes, "The great and even legendary Charlie Kirk is dead. No one understood or had the heart of the youth in the United States of America better than Charlie. He was loved and admired by all, especially me, and now he is no longer with us. Melania and my sympathies go out to his beautiful wife, Erica, and family. Charlie, we love you." This is also important. The school is now saying there is no suspect in custody after they previously said that one was.
Yeah, I know that it's somewhat object of mockery to say thoughts and prayers, but thoughts and prayers for his family. And they need it from all of us. And Jesse's right. If they could do this, they are capable of anything. I think that was the message. I believe that was the message. It's really hard to radicalize Republicans.
Yeah.
It's like we're not the radical type. But if you thought that you were going to shut a movement down, you're going to get a rude awakening. You woke us the fuck up.
We are already seeing the instant response from the media. The media is calling for blood. The media is provoking civil war. As you heard, the media, Fox News media, control media, as all the media on your television set is, saying you woke us the F up. This event that the government staged is going to have a profound effect on the laws and the rules moving forward, including AI governance and surveillance. But really, we have to look at the red flag laws. We have to look at the stories that come out about the shooter, because of course they're leaving us in suspense. They're letting this build inside of you. Everybody is hostile towards one another, as I'll show you in this video. This is important to see how people respond to these things, and they're responding even more insanely than I expected. I didn't think people would be this insanely, emotionally invested in a alt-right media pundit getting assassinated. But when you get assassinated in front of everybody's face and they show it to you on television or show it to you on the news or wherever you're picking up your news from, it has a profound effect on the psychosis. So as of me recording this, all they've said is that they have a person of interest in custody. So person of interest, obviously, we take a look at that terminology because person of interest, not a man or a woman in custody. And we're all thinking the same thing, I'm sure, in regards to transgender shooter. That's the government's calling card. Now, they might not use it in this case. They might use a pro-Palestine shooter event. I mean, let's be real. We are on the eve of September 11th, and what better day for the Mossad to operate a really, really big false flag / psychological operation than on the eve of their greatest false flag operation, which was in fact September 11th. So before we delve into the narratives and whether we delve into if it was real, if it was fake, let's look at some of the interesting things that occurred here. The announcement of Charlie Kirk's death came from the President of the United States of America. Donald Trump made the announcement, and all the headlines came from all the media outlets saying Trump says right-wing activist Charlie Kirk has died, and Trump made that statement that you heard earlier mentioned in the video. No one understood or had the heart of the youth in the United States of America better than Charlie. He was loved, admired by all. Well, agree to disagree as far as having the understanding of the heart of the youth. These people have control of the minds of the youth on the left and the right, and that is the problem, the left-right paradigm. So Trump was the one who announced his death. And then, interestingly enough, what was trending on X/Twitter was that term, enough is enough. Remember that from the Illuminati card game, which is best known for that September 11th, those two twin towers exploding and the Pentagon in the card game, also best known for this enough is enough card, which came out in the 90s and depicts clearly Donald Trump, as you can clearly see on your screen. So Charlie Kirk's death is going to be a major talking point. Major laws are going to be passed. We're going to see massive events occurring. We're going to see the flip. Remember the seesaw I always talk about. We're going to see the conservatives take it to the streets now. We're going to see more of the conservatives becoming activists. We are going to see the civil war they've told us about and teased for years and years and years. They've told us this is coming. These stories that you quietly hear about states like Florida getting rid of vaccine mandates, what do you think they're there for? You think DeSantis cares about your kids? You don't think he's a puppet of Israel? Those stories are there. They're hurting mechanisms. Conservative red states are going to make it so appealing for you to move there. Well, you might look at it now and say, I don't need to move. I love my home. They're going to make it so appealing when those Democrat states make it so undesirable to remain there. When they make more vaccine mandates, when they tell you you can't have a job unless you get vaccinated, when they tell you you have to wear a mask again, when they tell you they're going to enforce climate laws. You might pick up and you might actually go when they tell you that you have to ration your electricity. So the civil war has been brewing. I've been talking about it for almost a decade. But we look at some of the stuff they release, okay? They show us again, just like they showed us with Trump's assassination attempt, his government created assassination attempt. That was a operation of the government. There's no way, just like, they're trying to tell you in this event that Charlie Kirk didn't have any security. You believe that? Let me be clear with you real fast, okay? I'm anonymous. I used to have a big following. If I ever became non-anonymous and went out to speak, I would have had a massive amount of security with me because of the threats that people would send me all the time. And I wasn't even talking too harshly about anybody in particular. I was talking about Satanism and the occult. And yes, we know the LGBTQ plus gets all excited if you're not on their side and they want attention. So if you were Charlie Kirk, you don't think you would have had massive amounts of security with the amount of money that he makes? He has a massive media corporation. He's worth millions of dollars and he has 2 little children. So I would think that he'd have security there. So let's get rid of that narrative now that there was no security there. He probably had just as much security and has just as much security as the Secret Service, as all of the alt-right media do. All of these people who are the controllers, they are the influencers. They have a major part in everything that's about to go down. So they show us all this stuff with the roof, saying that the shooter's there, the shooter. And of course the debate's going to be, was anybody really shot, right? Now, people get upset when they hear that because they saw it with their own eyes, but you don't know what you're seeing with your own eyes. DARPA's technology is so advanced, they can make you believe anything on the you say, well, somebody filmed it with their phone. Well, you don't know what they could potentially have done, or the people holding the phones who put the footage out, because there's only about a handful of people who have videos out there, even though every time we see somebody at a concert, every single person is recording. There's only a handful of videos out there that show the actual shooting to his neck. You would think there would be at least like 200, 300 videos of that happening. But nonetheless, there's people who are going to get upset about that. They don't like to hear that things like that can be fake. They don't like to hear about clones. They don't like to hear about doubles. They don't like to hear about these actual events not being real. So what we need to look at is the why. Because I can only debate so much about was it real, was it not. A lot of the times, these people don't die. They can very easily fake an assassination attempt and send somebody off to live the rest of their days in Israel. If you look at some of the pictures, this is the debate that's out there, and I'll do it in another video if you want to break down, does it look real, does it not? Obviously, the first time you see it, you're going to think it's real. Well, of course you are. You see it from a phone that's zoomed out, then it zooms in. You see his neck going back and blood squirting out. But look at these little things that you have to pick up on. For those of you that are new to all this stuff with AI has a really tough time generating fingers. Now, I doubt that DARPA's AI, our AI that they plan on using in the future, messes up like this, but the AI they've released to us has a very difficult time with fingers, right? And they don't care if they carelessly do stuff like this. In fact, they like to leave little breadcrumbs so that people do debate whether the person was killed or whether they, whether it was faked, whether it was a side, whether it was a false flag. They like the fact that it's debated. They don't like you actually questioning if the news is real or not. That's what they don't want you talking about. But if you look at his fingers, you could clearly see that his ring on his finger moves to his pinky finger. It moves down as he's actually shot. If you count his fingers, you could see that very clearly. So that's the debate that's out there, because the AI struggles to actually make hands. If you've seen some of my thumbnails, the hands look very strange. If I use Grok, sometimes I do just to use it so it's easier than putting all these pieces together of an image. I've used it before in thumbnails on YouTube to try to use their technology against them so that more people see the video or see the thumbnail, want to click on it, because really that's how it all starts to get people led to your channel. The thumbnail is really important. So I know for a fact that they can't do fingers. So that's one of the debates that's out there. But really for me, okay, it's not about the debate whether or not he's alive or dead. This is 100% a government operation. You know it's a government operation by how the responses that immediately occur, how the news media immediately starts covering it. Like I showed you in my previous video, immediately talking about how he was specifically talking about transgender people as the bullet hit him. Another, some of the crisis actors or some of the real people who were there were also talking about how he was specifically talking about transgenders as he got shot and talking about gun laws and transgenders, right? They wanted bullet points out there. There's a lot of calling cards that they leave, but what we have to look at is the actual response to these events. You see, I'm not emotional because I don't believe anybody dies in these events. And I'm not emotional because obviously I don't know these people. If you watch how people are responding to this, you can see how deep they are into this. They think these people are their friends. There's people out, if you've gone out in public today, they're talking about this like they know these people. And again, that's part of the psychological operation. They are emotionally invested in this. But I personally don't actually think these things occur. Now, people don't understand what that means. But what it means is that they carry out these events, like filming a movie in real time, in front of you, live. Almost like reality TV, but not. That's what these people actually do. Now, is there a chance that they actually turned on him and assassinated him? Well, of course. These types of people would kill their own children. We know that for a fact. How many celebrities have we seen who have mysterious deaths surrounding their children? They would kill their own kids. So don't tell me that they wouldn't kill Charlie Kirk if it was for a greater good and a greater cause, which we'd be bringing in all these new laws, the anti-Semitism stuff that they'll attach to this, since a lot of the pictures they were showing on the news were Charlie Kirk wearing a yarmulke, right? But what was the other thing that we saw? Well, we saw the left being glad that he's dead and the right wanting revenge, the right wanting blood. That's the response that came out of this. People saying, you said this, you said that. Everybody on the internet's upset. If somebody out there was applauding that he got shot, how dare them? I want to, go after them and beat them up. Well, they say worse than that, but you catch my point. And what people need to understand as to why they fake these events is because this is the only way you bring in real change. Look how people are responding to this stuff. They need the people to accept the change. If none of this stuff was going on, if September 11th didn't happen and they tried to pass the Patriot Act, people would have been aware. They needed September 11th, among other things, for the sacrifice that was committed, so they could bring in the Patriot Act. So people couldn't say, well, all this stuff with TSA, all this stuff with spying in our homes, all this stuff with the NSA. Why do we need this? People would have pushed back against it. Say, absolutely not. So they created the event, problem, reaction, solution. All these false flags have a purpose. Nobody would care about the guns. Democrats wouldn't care about the guns if they didn't see all these stories about school shootings constantly. That's part of their game. They're making you want the change. And when they show you an actual event, when they show it to you in front of your eyes, there's something about that that's going to affect you. Everybody remembers seeing the footage of JFK when he was assassinated, or whatever your take is on that. We don't need to get into. Right? We saw the footage of JFK down into the, what does it do? It provokes emotion. Watching this, we're seeing people completely, it's just like Trump. When they saw Trump, I said at the time the psychosis was going to be next level. It's beyond next level. It's beyond what I even thought it would be. I thought people would start questioning it. No, because they saw it. And they saw it in real time. They were sitting on their couch or somewhere and saw it, and they jumped out of their seats. They couldn't believe it. Just like this. Watching somebody get shot, I mean, it's not an everyday occurrence in the world. You don't see people get shot every day. But at the same time, you can't prove one way or the other if any of these people get shot. Just because it's on a television, just because it trends on Twitter doesn't mean they were shot. Now, it makes more sense after I did my first video and processed it that they actually killed Charlie Kirk, or they actually removed him from the picture. Let's say that. Because whether he's dead or alive, no one will ever really know. Because, you're not going to see a casket, you're not going to dig him out from underground, and you're not going to be over in Israel, where a lot of these guys go and carry out their days doing, Mossad operations. This guy is a member of the CIA. All of the media are members of the CIA. So the Mossad, the CIA, is one and the same. They just do this. Maybe this was the plan for him all along, to make him this huge figure and then to martyr him. But if they actually had him get shot and live, it actually might have affected this in the opposite way. Because people might have actually said, another conservative guy gets shot by a Democrat close to his ear and his neck, they missed, and he survives. Well, the fact that he's no longer here has really ignited this fire. So he is your martyr. And of course, RFK even tweeted out, because of course they're going to connect this to JFK's assassination. They're going to connect this to Martin Luther King. That's what they're going to do. They're martyring him. They're creating their hero for you. As Albert Pike said, when the people need a hero, we will provide them that hero. And he's going to be the hero for the right. He's going to be the name and the focal point you hear for change and justice, and eventually these no-hide laws, which I'll talk about in a few minutes. But RFK saying, once again, a bullet has silenced the most eloquent truth teller of an era. My dear friend Charlie Kirk was our country's relentless and courageous crusader for free speech. I agree to disagree, but that's the image they want to present. And now he's your martyr. And as Benny Johnson said, Charlie Kirk is an American martyr. The alt-right media is already pumping this out. And what are the Democrats saying? Well, the Democrats are saying this is the greatest thing ever. Enough is enough. Charlie Kirk was your death of false flag, douchebag, F guns, F you for fighting the wrong side. You got what was coming to you, you piece of crap. Which again, is real psychosis when people are there cheering for other people to be dead. But this is what they've built. This is what they've created with narcissism, with putting people on pedestals, with creating division among the people. Having a difference of opinion no longer is having a difference of opinion. If you have a difference of opinion, that person is now your enemy for life. And we see people turn on their own families over this type of stuff, right? People out there saying, this generation, Charlie Kirk was the most important conservative political figure, voice for Gen Alpha, Gen Z, younger millennials. This generation just woke up and said enough is enough. And people like this, if you're celebrating the slaying of Charlie Kirk on the trend of he's dead, you should be rounded up with the rest of the domestic terrorist Democrats. I'm utterly effing done even trying to debate with the left. All of them are terrorists. And that's why they create these events, folks, because that's how they expect you and want you to react to it. And if you're in their game, they know how you're going to react to an event like this. And this guy is saying, you know what? Enough talking. It's time for war. Here's somebody else. Enough's enough. Talking's over. America needs action. The people want arrests. They want prosecutions. They want convictions, right? Libs of TikTok, another operative of the government. You think that this is just some organic person on TikTok with all these views, and they put them on Fox News and they pump them up and they pretend that they're martyred. Oh, TikTok is censored. Are they? Still probably one of the biggest influencers on TikTok? No, they're not. They pretend to be, right? That's what they all do. Tucker Carlson, etc. They're not, obviously. So calling for war. Alex Jones chiming in. This person needs to be investigated because somebody tweeted out, Charlie Kirk is coming to my college tomorrow. I really hope someone evaporates him, literally. Let's just say something big will happen tomorrow. So you're seeing the alt-right media trying to ignite their audience. This is why they killed Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk talking about socialists and this disease that they have, this hive mind, even though conservatives are in the same exact hive mind. Benny Johnson talking about how on MSNBC, these people are blaming Charlie Kirk for the shooting of Charlie Kirk, right? That's the kind of thing that's got people at Elon Musk, of course, chiming in. They're all chiming in because it's the game. The left is the party of murder. Plant these seeds in their minds. This is what they're doing. How about this? This might be the funniest thing. Because we're speaking about all of these actors, right? In Congress, Republican Lauren Boebert, someone I always mention, right? One of the biggest operatives there is, would never be in Congress unless they didn't want this actor in place. Well, she's requested a moment of prayer for Charlie Kirk. And of course, Democrats are heard yelling no in Congress, like high school, because that's what your Congress is. And these people are all actors, and they're the ones causing all of this. Matt Walsh, thank God the man was caught. We don't know who he is yet, but he was caught. Now punish him in the most severe possible way. We want justice for Charlie Kirk. So now you're hearing hints about not just arresting people, killing people. You see where we're going with this? There's another conservative talking head. Fight, fight, fight. I knew Charlie Kirk well enough to know exactly how he'd tell us to handle it. Evil leftists want to be terrorized, us to be terrorized and defeated. Don't let Charlie's passing make you back down. Use it as fuel. That's what Charlie would want. To fight, fight, fight. Somebody else. Death penalty is the only solution because that's what we're headed towards. Death penalty, right? Noah-hide laws. Remember this week, the story I covered, which couldn't have been faker, of the girl getting stabbed on that train? If you didn't watch that video, you should watch it. It's on the website, okay? Woman stabbed, doesn't scream, looks in people's eyes around her, doesn't moan, doesn't yell. Guy walks around. It's one of the fakest things we've ever possibly seen. Well, what happens right after that? Well, Donald Trump, Charlie Kirk, they're all on TV saying that the media won't cover this. Trump saying, no, we want a quick trial, and we should get the death penalty for him. And that's all the alt-right media is talking about this week, the death penalty. You know why? Because if you're not paying attention, Donald Trump's bringing in the Noah-hide laws. And I'm sorry to break it to Christians out there who don't understand what's actually happening. The Noah-hide laws are not beneficial to followers of Jesus Christ. You have to make a decision eventually. If you can follow the synagogue of Satan or you're going to follow Christ, because this is all set up for you to denounce your faith in Christ, because they're going to criminalize Christians who follow the Bible, who follow certain teachings in the Bible. And if you didn't know, violating any of the 7 commandments can potentially lead to execution under the Noah-hide laws. Now, the other thing we need to look at when these events happen, we look at the footage, we look at the talking heads. I will obviously cover the narrative in the media. There's going to be the same talking points. We've already heard a few. Turning Point is one of the talking points. That's his company. They're using a Turning Point for America. There's going to be a lot of talking points, just like divine intervention with Trump's assassination. But we got to look at skeptical behavior. Behavior that makes you go, huh? Now, Benny Johnson and Charlie Kirk are butt buddies. Benny Johnson, America will never be the same. Charlie Kirk tweeted out less than 24 hours after he was supposedly assassinated, America will never be the same. Showing a picture of that girl sitting on that train right before she's fake stabbed. And Charlie Kirk and all these guys are calling for the death penalty to be brought back in. He says America will never be the same. I wonder if he knew that 24 hours later that he would actually be the face, along with this girl who will get, won't get much media attention. But the narrative is going to start to change about how to criminalize these people. And it's not going to be get them in jail. No, because the system's failed. They keep throwing them out. No, they are going to want public execution via beheading. And we know where that goes in scripture. Now, the other thing with skeptical behavior is the wife. Any one of us can look at this, and of course, there's going to be people who go, well, everybody behaves differently in a crisis, okay? But I'll tell you one thing you don't do. You don't make 30 tweets in less than 4 hours after your husband is assassinated right in front of everybody. We don't want to say on national television, but I mean, it's all over national television. Okay, the supposed video clips are everywhere. So we could say maybe she wasn't there with her kids. She's all over social media, and we lost him. She's making the announcement. Okay, you might say, oh, that's a little strange. I mean, she's not grieving, right? Your husband just going to work, gets shot in the head, and you get to watch it on video, and you're thinking about going on social media just to say, we lost him, right? Now, I know we live in a narcissistic world where everybody wants attention, but how about all the other tweets? She keeps retweeting stuff. Is she with her kids? I mean, look, suspicious behavior, you always look at. That's what police do. That's what we have to do, right? We got to look at it like a true crime investigation. You got to look at how people behave around you. I mean, we got to keep an eye out on the wife and the kids and see if they even remain in America. Somebody needs to find out they sell their house and maybe they'll head over to Israel, right? Or we'll probably never hear from them again. They'll maybe be activists for their husband and change. I'm sure she'll come out in the media with the two kids, play on people's heartstrings, always doing that. She was just constantly retweeting stuff from MAGA Voice. Oh, the White House flags are at half mast. This is what Charlie Kirk was wearing today. It's what he fought for every day. We'll never forget freedom, folks. Retweeting what the White House is tweeting out. I mean, over and over and over. And keep in mind, the announcement was not made online by Charlie Kirk's wife. It was made by Donald Trump. That's the source of confirmation of his death. All the media was sitting there saying nothing. Well, we don't know what's going on. Until Donald Trump tweeted it out. And then everybody said, Donald Trump has just tweeted. Donald Trump has tweeted. Donald Trump has posted on True. So Donald Trump has announced that Charlie Kirk is dead. Right? So maybe Trump knew before even the wife actually knew. Now, the other thing I mentioned was September 11th. I mean, we can't not mention it. Most of you know that Charlie Kirk is a shill for Israel, as all of these guys are, even if they pretend that they're not on board. If they're interviewing the president, if they're on national TV, that's how this goes, okay? That's who's funding them. That's who's behind them. It's not, there's donors in the Israel is funding all of it. And this was a tweet from somebody from InfoWars. He said, I'm not going to name names, but I was told by someone close to Charlie that Charlie thinks Israel will kill him if he turns against it. But we know InfoWars is controlled out, but they're putting this narrative out there now that the Mossad may have done it. Or was it the Democratic deep state and the trans? There's multiple narratives about who possibly could have done it, but they want you to think that Charlie might have been turning on those people that he claims to have supported. And I don't believe that for a second, but I think it's interesting that that narrative with Israel is front and center. Because as soon as we find out who the shooter is, they're going to bring these little government CIA taglines into it. Pro-Palestine, anti-Israel, right? He shot him because he's an anti-Semite, and Charlie Kirk supported Israel, and he hates Jews, right? If you watch all the news clips, he's wearing yarmulkes in most of the photos, and it's September 10th that he shot. And everybody knows who's responsible for September 11th. The other thing is this South Park thing. Now, we all know about predictive programming with The Simpsons. For anyone out there who doesn't know, Charlie Kirk was featured on South Park, and you might say, well, how do you know? Do you watch that? No, I don't. This was blasted everywhere. Everywhere I went, I was getting recommended videos about it. I didn't watch any of them, but I remember seeing it. Charlie Kirk is on South Park, right? So after he's assassinated today, there's articles out there, MAGA pointing fingers at South Park after Charlie Kirk's assassination. So I looked into it. What happens to him on South Park? They just make fun of him. Of course, they make fun of Christians, right? But he also gets attacked at an event that looks very similar to this, what he's doing. Now, Charlie Kirk doesn't just speak under tents on college campuses. He speaks at the Republican National Convention. He speaks on stages. He goes all around the country and does this stuff. On the show, he was speaking on a college campus, and people were debating him about transgender and all this stuff. And then he got punched in the face and got assaulted, right? So that's interesting that that episode came out a month ago with Charlie Kirk in it. We know there's no such thing as coincidence. Now, he wasn't shot, but if he was shot on the show and this happened, you would be getting way too many people waking up, and they're not going to have that. And keep in mind, the creators of South Park are massive, massive gun advocates. If you don't remember Bowling for Columbine, this was one of the big propaganda pieces they put out after Columbine, another government operation, right? Michael Moore interviewing people, Satanists, all of them talking about who the enemy is. The enemy's not the media. The enemy's not video games. The enemy is the NRA, right? When in fact, it's the opposite. It's the opposite. They're creating violent people through promoting things like, Grand Theft Auto, for example, or promoting people like Marilyn Manson, who also appeared in that film. And what were they saying? They were saying that, children and violence, and we need to get to the bottom of it. And the bottom of it, really, what they were saying is that, well, guns and the NRA is the problem, right? So what a coincidence that they just had Charlie Kirk in their episode. He's assassinated a month after being in that episode. They made a huge deal about him being in it. I don't know why anybody would care, but apparently they did. They couldn't believe their hero, Charlie Kirk, was getting mocked, right? It was announced everywhere. It was all over CNN. It was on the main page. Charlie Kirk mocked on CNN. Well, they wanted you to know. That's why. They wanted you to know. They wanted you to tune in, not just for ratings. They wanted you to see Charlie Kirk getting assaulted at one of his college campus debates. And there you go. Not only did he get assaulted, he was supposedly executed. So we have a lot of narratives out there. Is it real? Is it not? What we have to pay attention to is obviously what comes of it. We all know, at least you guys should know, the calling cards are there. The talking points are there. They are calling for civil war now. That's what Fox News is screaming about. We want blood. We want vengeance. Everybody on social media, just watch how they respond. That's what the government does. The data centers, we're the data. Go online and speak your mind so they can watch what you're thinking and control your thoughts by creating events and telling you that they're real. So what are we seeing? Democrats saying they're glad he's dead, Republicans wanting their blood for saying that he's dead. And the same conservatives who are for free speech are under such a psychosis that they're actually calling for censorship on people who are cheering for somebody to be dead. I mean, look, if somebody shot me in the head, okay, and I was dead, I can guarantee you I wouldn't care if people were mocking my death and saying, I'm so glad that he's dead. And I wouldn't want any of my friends or any of my family members to give a crap about what people say. And that's how people really should be behaving. But this is what they've created by design, because this is how they're able to control people's emotions, by showing them fake events and telling them it's real, making people believe they're seeing assassination attempts. People not even understanding the type of technology that they have and how easily they can fake these things. People think, like, what are they going to do? Just grab a blood packet? You know, no way. It looked a lot realer than that. Well, I understand it looked real. You don't think when I looked at it that I didn't think it? I still look at it and see the footage and say it's pretty realistic. I don't doubt how realistic it looks. I doubt what I see when it's presented to me from people I don't trust. Just like I wouldn't trust the milkman or the milkman, they don't exist. The ice cream truck, right? If I had kids, I wouldn't trust the ice cream truck driver. I'm like, I don't trust media that's fed to me. I don't trust any stories that are given to me. And if you know the history of the CIA, this is what they do. They mass produce the news. It's more than Mockingbird media. It's deeper. It's the stories. Look at the response. That's what I tell everyone. Look at the response of everybody out there. They are going nuts over this.
We create a pretend world. We are a global production company. We write the screenplay. We're the directors. We're the producers. We're the main actors. And the world is our stage.
The more we look at the footage and everything surrounding the Charlie Kirk assassination, it's starting to become more clear that the character Charlie Kirk is indeed dead in this reality. But the actor playing Charlie Kirk may very well be alive. Now, when we first see this footage, you have to remember, you have to take it in. The first time you're going to see it, you're going to say, wow, that looks real. Just like when you watch a movie, you don't stop the movie, rewind the movie, and start breaking down frame by frame to see the actual wound that a character has suffered in the actual movie. You watch the movie, you're in disbelief, you're in suspense. The person in the movie gets shot, and you just move on. You don't go through it to try to break down, well, how did they use special effects here to have this character, show this character getting shot? Now, when it comes to the real world, or what's supposed to be the real world, which is really a simulated reality because the news is manufactured and scripted, and that's how they create chaos. That's how they created all of this division, by putting these characters in place on the left and on the right, by provoking one another, by giving you fictional stories of shootings here and border crossings there and illegal immigrants committing these crimes and criminals being let out of jail and running free in the streets and Democrats not caring. All of these actors have played their role to create this civil war, which was done by design. And characters like Charlie Kirk, who blew onto the scene in 2016 and 2017, right at the time of Donald Trump, this entire alt-right movement is attached directly to Donald Trump. They wiped out the truth movement and they put in the alt-right media, as I've said a million times. So when you watch this stuff in real time, you don't think to yourself to go back and break down the actual footage. You're in disbelief when you see somebody get shot right in front of your face. But of course, it's the illusion of somebody getting shot, because the death of Charlie Kirk is vital in this movement moving forward. Not this movement of freedom, not this movement of nationalism. This is the movement of the New World Order, because it only comes in via divide and conquer. And this event was needed to divide the people even more than they've ever been divided, to ignite more hatred, to have the right calling for the blood of the left. And it's only just begun, because as more information comes out and the shooter is revealed, this psyop is only going to escalate into exactly what they want, which is to bring in red flag laws, which is to remove certain rights from certain citizens. We see all the conservatives calling for cancellations and people to lose their jobs who posted out about being glad that Charlie Kirk is dead. This is exactly what they want. It's the cancellation of one another, the cancellation of our rights. The left first was removing the rights of the conservative movement, and now the conservatives are trying to remove the rights of the left. That's exactly what the globalists want. And of course, we know this is all about bringing in their surveillance state, their digital IDs, their removal of free speech, accountability for words said online, and of course, criminalizing people for thought and for words. So that being said, when you see this footage, let's look at it real fast in real time. The first time you see it, this is going to look like someone getting shot in the neck. I saw many people comment on many of my posts that I put up saying that this is 100% real because they're watching it in real time. They're looking at this saying, wow, that looks very, very real. Look.
Gang violence. Great. Not counting 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 gang violence. Great.
So when you see that, and you see it all over social media, your natural response is, because you're not watching a movie in your mind, you think you're watching the news or actual real event, you're automatically believing that it's real, and that's what they want. Because they wouldn't be able to pass these laws and make these changes unless they carried out these false flag operations to make you want change and make you want red flag laws. That's what I've been saying over and over and over again, that we need to remind people. If all these fake events that they've created, these school shootings, etc., didn't occur, the left wouldn't be calling for gun control because they wouldn't see a problem with people having guns. So they have to create all these events. And of course, the only people who really want guns removed for citizens are these people who are in power, who want to remain in power for the rest of their lives. And they realize that once people wake up to what's actually been going on, including this divide and conquer psychosis they put people in, that the people might rise up against them, and they need to make sure they're unarmed. Now, in that footage that you saw, it looked real in real time. Of course it did. Just like when you watch somebody get shot in a movie, you don't see them get shot in real time in the movie and say that looked really, really fake, unless you're watching something that you got from the DVD bin at 7-Eleven. Most of these big productions you watch, you're like, whoa, that's gruesome. Oh, that looks real, right? Now, when we break this down, take a closer look here with me. We're going to look at this frame by frame, slowed down. Right now, take a look. You see how his shirt is moving before there's even a wound on his face, almost like something pumped out of his shirt, like something popped in his shirt. If he was shot in the neck, as we saw, and he fell backwards, we would see the wound on his neck first, and then we would see his body jump and possibly some of his clothing move, but something's clearly underneath his shirt that is very clear to see, that is popping up. Watch again. In his shirt, as he falls over. Okay, ready? Move back, rewind, watch again. Pump, opposite way. Now forward, pump, up, out of his actual shirt. So there's clearly a mechanism in place there. And you might say, well, what are you actually getting at? What could be underneath the shirt? Well, a blood squib is a device that they use in films and movies. It looks a lot like this.
When an actor is shot, under his shirt is a small explosive device. These squibs contain fake blood packs that burst open upon detonation, creating a realistic gunshot effect. However, the explosion can also cause minor injuries, such as burns or bruises.
So you notice the blood squib and how that looks, right? That's what they use in movies, right? It's almost like a device, right? It's a device that bursts upon detonation that can be used under the shirt. Now you might say, well, that was at his neck. But how do we not know that they weren't using more sophisticated technology? Because, of course, we know DARPA has the most insane technology that we could possibly imagine. We can't even imagine it. It is so insane, including things like smart bullets that they use where they could snipe somebody out from anywhere at any time. And again, if they wanted to assassinate Donald Trump, they would have assassinated Donald Trump. And this doesn't look like they actually assassinated Charlie Kirk, because I'll show you more footage momentarily. This looks like they assassinated the character of Charlie Kirk, because that's all that really matters, is the character. We'll never see the character again on television. We'll never see the character again on social media. The character was killed off. What you're watching is a show. It is a stage. All the world is their stage, right? Like the Mossad tells us, the whole world is their stage. And who do you think's pulling the strings?
We create a pretend world. We are a global production company. We write the screenplay. We're the directors. We're the producers. We're the main actors. The world is our stage.
So to answer for the neck wound, now we don't know if they actually turned one of these up so that it would splatter out towards his neck. Some people have obviously talked about, including myself, the AI, using potential AI, the fingers of Charlie Kirk with his ring. But I want to show you just some other things as well that we very much, nobody knows this stuff because you just go see a movie and you're in a suspended state. You watch these things and then you entertain and then you turn it off and then you move on, right? Well, somebody's got to be responsible for doing these types of wounds and things that we see in the movies. And here are just a couple of clips, including a neck wound, how they could, the guy's neck looks, it looks, you wouldn't be able to tell that there was anything going on with his neck, and how they could feed these devices through pumps, through someone's shirt, right up through the front of their neck to cause these types of wounds. Look.
We don't want to jinx it, we don't want to say anything wrong, but what we don't want to have happen is that awful moment, and I wish I could say it's never happened, where you're on set and you start pumping blood, and you look at the actor and nothing's coming out of his neck, but there's a giant red pile going on the back of his body. You know? What I'm doing with purging the line is making sure that the blood is travelling down the line and that there's pressure in the thing. So I don't know if you can see here. So this is the bit where I'm going to cut the appliance. So I'm going to start to cut. This is where I had that situation where I had an extra freak out on set. This is always I think, a very nerve-wracking piece, because you don't exactly know for sure that you are in the right place, and also, you are using a pair of live scissors on next to an actor, and the whole crew are watching sometimes, and you're a little bit nervous. I just need to turn a little bit towards the mic. There you go. These are a very, very fine pointed scissor. They snip through foam really, really well, and also they've got a lot of control over the blade. It's a little bit lower than I wanted to be, but that's actually not a bad thing. Regarding the pale colour of the foam on the inside, some people like to paint that red. I don't. Your flesh is naturally white inside. I'll bring you back to the position. And I kind of like the white because it's going to go red very, very quickly. And I like that. I really do. I like this. Now, once you drop your head down, just relax. See, it's almost like I can finger the wound back in. It's almost like it's undetectable.
3, 2, 1.
Creating this hit took an air pressurizer, a gnarly prosthetic, and a special blood formula. Making actors project, gush, and burst out blood on camera isn't just about gore. These bloody scenes require careful research and artistic flair. To find out how they do it, we went to Brett Schmidt and Greg Pikulski, the special effects makeup artists at SPFX Studio. They've created graphic injuries for mob dramas like The Irishman, medical shows like New Amsterdam, and action movies like Sicario: Day of the Soldado. It all starts with the actual prosthetics. The hardest part of creating wounds is building the look of depth.
Prosthetic makeup is an additive process, so you can only add, you can't take away.
But when you look at a wound, you're supposed to be looking into the body. The prosthetic needs to be thick enough to create that effect.
But it also has to work into the rest of the person's body. And that's why a lot of times for effects that have, lacerations or even bullet holes, you'll actually have a prosthetic that is an entire torso.
Just to create the effect of this small bullet wound in Sicario: Day of the Soldado, Brett and Greg had to sculpt a prosthetic that covered most of the actor's shoulder. For this laceration prosthetic from New Amsterdam, they were able to build up a thickness that subtly ramps up toward the laceration. Because this scene required a lot of blood, the prosthetic also had to be thick enough to hide a medium-sized vinyl tube. For smaller wounds, Brett and Greg might use one of these tiny tubes. These can be hidden in actors' hair or even a pair of glasses, like they did in this scene from Sicario Day of the Soldado. To hide the larger tubes, however, they had to sculpt a special channel in the prosthetic.
You don't want to put a tube in, that creates a bulge or anything like that. That'll give away the effect.
On set, they hid the rest of the tube underneath and behind the actress. How the blood comes out of the tube depends on what you use to power it. In this scene, a piece of shrapnel has hit a patient's artery. To create the kind of spray that results from an artery rupture, the blood has to be released at a high pressure out of a centralized location, like you see in this test run with water. They get that effect using this little device.
This is a tiny little garden sprayer that's usually used for spraying various chemicals on your flowers or whatnot.
After they prime the line with some pre-existing blood, they let out the blood in a pulsing motion to emulate real arterial bleeding.
3, 2, 1.
The key was using a lot of blood. For the full effect, though, you'd need to see this in slow-mo.
So it's movie magic, as they say, but why would people put it out of the realm of possibility that they would use this type of stuff in real time while people are thinking that they're watching something real, and then, of course, somebody that they look up to or somebody they despise is assassinated right in front of their eyes? It brings them deeper into the psychosis, which is exactly what they need, which is exactly what the fake Trump assassination did. Now, I want to show you a couple of other clips that are very, very suspicious. There's two men standing behind Charlie Kirk. Keep an eye on these two men as I play this clip. They're clearly signaling for this device to be activated. Now, you can look at it. If you don't believe that they used a device, which it should be pretty clear based on how his chest pumped and how his chest jumped out, and it just did not look like a natural response. And again, remember the stuff with it. There's no ambulance there. All the footage after he gets shot is cut off. Nobody filmed him on the ground. Nobody filmed an ambulance coming, and I'll show you in a couple of minutes him getting dragged away by his security team. But take a look at these men behind him. They're obviously with him. Okay, they're obviously, because they're that close to him, we like to pretend that these guys are just like regular guys like me and you. They go up to the people, they shake their hands. These guys are heavily protected, heavily. The government has invested much time and much effort in creating these characters. They are protected just like celebrities are protected. In fact, these people have become just as popular as actual celebrities in the world in 2025 because that's the psychosis they've created with politics. But watch these men behind him, clearly signaling.
Do you know how many massacres there have been in America over the last 10 years? Counting or not counting gang violence? Great. Do you know how many massacres there have been in America over the last 10 years? Counting or not counting gang violence? Great.
Right? I mean, you look at that, you can see them signaling. It looks like something right out of Major League Baseball, right?
Part of being a good bat boy is not having a better beard than a lot of great players.
Who's he giving signs to?
I don't know.
You gotta be kidding me.
This kid is strong.
So there's a signal. That could have been the signal to activate the actual noise, the mechanism of a shot, a blank being fired, which probably was linked up with the device that was on his body. Now, one other thing is, obviously, there's been tons of foreshadowing. That's stuff that people are talking about, foreshadowing of Charlie Kirk's death, right? Him talking about being shot. He tweeted out in the past, did I just get shot by an AR-15? Feels like it, right? Well, here is him. I want you to listen closely because all the articles that were out there yesterday were talking about how he had no security. There's no security, right? Just like Donald Trump. We were supposed to believe that Donald Trump didn't have the right security, the security didn't do its job, that somebody outsmarted the Secret Service, the guy who supposedly, the BlackRock kid who supposedly shot at Trump, who couldn't look like he could walk down the street or tie his own shoes, somehow outsmarted the Secret Service, and nobody saw him on the rooftop. And that kid who looked like he couldn't even read, somehow got that close with the rifle from that distance to Donald Trump's head. Give me an utter break. Completely staged, but the right doesn't want to believe that it's completely staged because they're in the psychosis. They don't want to believe that the left and right is fully controlled by the supposed deep state that they think that they're actually against. Well, here's Charlie Kirk, again, who had no security. Here's he is talking about, and pretty much, using magic in a sense, talking about how what the future looks like with violence and him, and he very well believes that he could be killed one day. But keep in mind, he also talks about how he has heavy security around him at all times.
At the core of the left, at the core of a liberal, is someone that would use the sword if they had it. They are very violent people at their core. They always have been. They can't debate. They can't have conversation. So they'll resort to these tactics. They're going to do everything they possibly can to try to murder this movement because they can't beat us. So they're going to try to take weapons. And no, we're very aware of that. I'm aware of it. We have to have full-time security. This is not a joke. This is who these people are. No, we're very aware of that. I'm aware of it. We have to have full-time security.
So the media tells you that Donald Trump had no security or there was a lack of security, which is, obviously hard to believe. Now we hear the same thing with Charlie Kirk, but Charlie Kirk says he has security around him at all times because these people obviously, if they weren't government agents, they were normal people, how would you not have the wherewithal in the current climate to have security around you at all times? I said this in previous videos on this topic. If I actually revealed my face when my channel was what it was before it got curb stomped so these people could replace people like me because they don't want you to realize that the news is fake and it's a simulation to suck you in to the matrix, pretty much, that's what it is. If I ever revealed my face and went out there, I would have massive amounts of security. One of the reasons I didn't do it is because of the threats that people were sending me online, just from talking about the New World Order and weather modification of those things, people getting unhinged over those types of topics, those conspiracy topics. So they obviously know to have security around them all times. And then the other question is about the ambulance. There's no ambulance there, right? This is an event with lots of people. Think about any event you've been to. Think about if you have a county fair in your town. There's always medics nearby. You always see an ambulance, right? Say you have, a fall, what's coming up, Harvest Fest, right? And everyone's out there and they're, look at all these arts and crafts, right? And they got the people selling ice cream and selling hot dogs. You'll always see medics nearby because they know if there's X amount of people, there might be 100, there might be 200, 300 people there. Medics need to be on standby in case something happens. There's a lot of people. You never know. There could be violence. Well, being that, what we all see going on with the left-right, anybody with common sense would say, well, there's a chance there could be violence at these things because all they're doing is fighting with one another, and everyone's getting gaslit, everybody's going back and forth, everybody's in each other's face. You have Charlie Kirk embarrassing the liberals on college campuses. I mean, it's very clear to see that violence could very well occur, and we've seen some events where they actually have occurred. So you'd think medics would be on hand for that, or just because it's a large gathering, but he wasn't brought out in ambulance, and conveniently all the footage was cut off after Charlie Kirk supposedly was shot. And this is what we get. This is all we get is Charlie Kirk being carried. You don't see any blood splatter coming out of him after what we saw from the wound. We just see men carrying a body and throwing him into the back of a black SUV, and that's the end. Look. So that's how it ends. He gets thrown in the back of SUV, and then you wait, right? Next thing you hear is Donald Trump announce that he's dead. Is Donald Trump in the car? How did Donald Trump find out? Donald Trump people called him, and they were all on standby. And like, can you make the announcement, Donald, to the world? The announcement, again, came from Donald Trump. Every headline and every news media outlet, which is all controlled, wanted to make sure you knew that Donald Trump made the announcement because it brings the conservatives deeper into the psychosis. It brings both sides deeper into it. This entire thing is a production. The world is their stage. That's what this is. The world is their stage. And people have questioned a lot of these events, where conservatives have questioned a lot of the school shootings that have happened, rightfully so, because they're all fake. But people get so emotionally invested in this stuff because they believe in these characters. They think that these characters are real. They put Charlie Kirk out there for about 10 years. This is probably his entire purpose of the creation of Charlie Kirk, the character, was this, and the red flag laws and the things that they're going to bring in from this, and the inciting of civil war and civil unrest. All you hear is conservatives saying, we need revenge. Fight, fight, fight. Right? Donald Trump's mantra, fight, fight, fight. The other side laughing at one side's death. That's how deep they've gotten these people into the psychosis because of the characters like Charlie Kirk that they rolled out. Remember, none of these guys, Charlie Kirk, Jack Posobiec, or whatever his name is, Ben Shapiro, Tim Cass. In 2016, these people did not exist. Now these people are interviewing the president. They're on national television now. The whole truth movement was removed from YouTube in 2016 after the whole thing at the pizza place. Everybody was removed. Everyone, and replaced with these characters, and these characters are carrying this out. There was no civil unrest like this in 2016. There might have been people who disagreed politically and, who didn't see eye to eye with people. The abortion stuff obviously is always going to be controversial, but not like this. Not since they put the character Donald Trump in office and they put the alt-right media there, and they had the liberal media annoy the conservatives with all the stuff they reported, which was fake news, they would call it. But the reality is that the news itself is fake, and these are characters who are working you into a psychosis. They are manipulating your thoughts. They are the ones who are creating this alternate universe that we're in. It's not any coincidence that at the same time we have all these Marvel movies that come out with alternate universes. Well, everybody who believes in the news and believes that all this stuff that they see in the news is real, and these people who are characters are real, they're living in an alternate reality. And you see how it affects them. This is all they talk about on social media. They go out and they talk about these things. This isn't even in their day-to-day life. They're not even seeing it visibly with their own eyes in front of them. They're seeing it through the technology. They're seeing it through their phone. They're seeing it through the television. We are in a deep psychosis, ladies and gentlemen. Not the people who listen to this type of content. And it's hard for people to get past that with the news being simulated. What do you think about insane world leaders and Roman empires? Why would it be beyond the realm of possibility for them to control not just the news, which everyone knows? Everyone talks about BlackRock and all the corporations that own the media, right? And they say, they own the media. What do you think? It stops at some stories about how the media hates Donald Trump, the liberal media. You don't think that they'd actually go, hey, what would be really good? We just CGI stuff. We just green screen stuff. We'll create stories of war. We'll keep them in fear. We'll create stories of shootings in schools to make them want to get guns out of the hands of civilians. We'll get them scared that there's not enough surveillance around, that criminals are getting away with murder, that we need more cameras. And that's what they do. And they create the news just like a director or a producer creates a movie. It's like Wag the Dog, literally. That's what we're living in. So people need to pull themselves out of the emotional effect that this has on them. I say it with the school shootings, it's easy to get sucked in because you hear about children. You see pictures of AI photographs of children that never existed in the first place, and then you hear a backstory about them, and everyone gets sucked in. I can't believe it. I've been praying for these kids. Their whole day revolves around it. They don't even realize they're in a psychosis. It's the same thing with these characters. They're emotionally invested in these characters because they've listened to them day in and day out for the last couple of years, because they speak and say the things that they want to hear, because they're voices for the people against the other side, the opposition, the left and the right? Because these people don't feel like they have voices, so the alt-right media is their voice, just like the Democrats. The liberal media is their voice. When those people are working together to divide you and manipulate you and to get you to hate one another and to emotionally invest in their characters, and those characters then, they mold and warp your view on things in the world and how you should feel about things. Think about all the hatred towards the LGBTQ, right? Over the last, 8 years, how it's ignited. People were anti-gay, Christians were anti-gay, marriage, all this other stuff, but it didn't affect them. They're just like, whatever. If they want to get married, let them get married. But then all of a sudden, right, they're just like, well, we're going to put news stories out about lap dances in schools, and the liberals are going to cheer for it. We're going to put put the drag queens in the White House lawn, and they work the conservatives into a frenzy. And people like Charlie Kirk were defending them and going, this is lunatics talk, and they're going, yes, somebody finally saying it. Instead of the people just going, how are we accepting this and allowing this? We don't need some talking head to tell us what's right and what's wrong. It's clear that they're manipulating people in the media, and they're manipulating one side to accept this and think that this is normal, and then they're working the other side to be so pissed off that they're grasping at straws for some hero to speak up and defend them. And that's where the alt-right media, people like Charlie Kirk, came in. And then what happens? Ooh, they shoot him down, supposedly, right in front of your eyes. Think about the effect that has. Seeing an assassination, a so-called assassination. It's going to affect you because you think that you're watching something that's real, and you're watching a real person that you know who's being shot, but that's not the reality. These are characters, and what you're watching is a scripted reality, and it's all so that you ask for the things and demand the things that Big Brother has wanted from the get-go. That's what comes out of this. Okay? Anti-Semitism laws, Noahide laws being brought in. Like I mentioned in my previous video, talking about how we're all of a sudden hearing about capital punishment. We're hearing about, well, this guy, murdered a girl on a train. Let's kill her. What? All of a sudden, I thought the death penalty was abolished. Well, Trump's in power. Now we're going to remove that. And in fact, we're not even going to have a fast trial. We're going to kill people. because the justice system's not working. They're letting criminals out. I mean, this is all part of their game to change, laws and rules and to make you want this change, because they couldn't just do it without the psyops and the false flags. If none of these things occurred, they wouldn't be able to do it. If 9/11 didn't happen, and you heard that Congress was passing a bill called the Patriot Act, and they were going to start doing this crap at the airports, and they're going to start spying on people, the NSA, to make sure that Al-Qaeda didn't come and blow up another building in our cities. If they didn't do that, you'd say, absolutely not. That's why would we want this? We don't want this government overreach. Well, then when the 9/11 happened, people said, yeah, we need that. Or they just accepted it because the government said, look, we have to do this because of that. Just like all these events at schools, none of these people will be saying, we want to get everybody's guns, we need gun control. None of the Democrats would be calling for gun control if they didn't see these simulations. If none of these events happen, which they likely would not happen, okay, naturally, why do you think they weren't happening in the 70s and 80s? I've talked about this. Operation Orion, okay, was created by the CIA to start carrying out these events in schools to make the people want gun control. And then they just ramped it up in the 2000s, right? 2010's on, we see one every week, every month, and these people are going nuts, going, we got to get guns, we got to get guns. Well, they didn't do that. You could go up to some Democrat, be like, yeah, I'm a gun owner. They wouldn't care that you were a gun owner. They need the psyops to do it. They need the false flags to do it. And that's exactly what this is. So think about what's going to come of all this with Charlie Kirk because of how deep in the psychosis most of these people are. There'll be more coverage on this topic, obviously, on the website. We've got still, as of me recording this, no information on the shooter. I wouldn't be surprised if that somehow ties into needing more surveillance with Palantir and everything else. How do we track them? The only information they've given out is they know it's a somebody college aged. Right? How convenient. Well, of course, it'd be somebody college age. If they told you it was a 90-year-old man like they originally did, or some people were saying it was, that doesn't play into this game. We know what they need it to be. They need to be someone pro-Palestine, possibly trans, which, again, is the obvious thing to do. And then you think to yourself, well, if they make the shooter trans, wouldn't everybody wake up and say, this is too ridiculous? This circus is becoming too ridiculous. No. Actually, no. It'd be the perfect send-off to this stuff to bring in red flag laws against trans people, which is what they want to do. But it's not really for trans people. They want conservatives to sign off on red flag laws and say, we need them. Trans people have mental health problems. We need something in place with mental health. Okay. And then you put Gavin Newsom in 2028 or whatever year, put him back in, put someone in, Democrat. Guess who becomes the red flag law? And they switch it and they go, we have red flag laws in place, but we don't believe that mental health has anything to do with being trans. That's who they are. We believe mental health are conspiracy theorists. People who are online posting about weather modification and 5G and who question vaccines and who question school shootings. Those people have mental problems, right? Because we know how the game works. They want to silence us, not the alt-right media, not the people who pretend that they're awake, who go down the QAnon CIA created rabbit hole, us, people like me and you. There is more to come.
Look at your screen. These are two of the photos that the FBI Salt Lake City just released. They say, we're asking for the public's help identifying this person of interest in connection with the fatal shooting of Charlie Kirk at Utah Valley University. So the FBI just releasing moments ago photos of who they're calling a person of interest in Charlie Kirk's murder. You can see both of those different angles of this person of interest right here. We were hearing initially that the person of interest they were looking for was wearing all black, and now we can see from these photos this person of interest wearing a black hat, a baseball cap, with their eyes shielded with dark sunglasses and dark attire right here. So they're asking for the public's help in identifying this person of interest. They're asking anyone to call 1-800-CALL-FBI.
As the suspense builds, the FBI has released a photo of the person of interest as the manhunt continues. The suspense is so important into sucking people into the psychosis. But before we get into details here about other narratives that we all have to pay attention to, because this has everything to do with our rights. Our rights are being taken away from us because of events like this. If you're falling into this because you're turning on the media or the alt-right media, or whatever other media you consume, pull yourself out of it. Stop being concerned as to whether or not this guy was shot and killed, if it was a false flag and he really was murdered or he wasn't murdered, because the outcome of that is the same. They are going to bring in change from this, and the narrative that's coming with the shooter and transgender ideologies, and of course, him being on the loose for so long and us not being able to apprehend him as fast, and how biometrics would have saved the day, those are things we have to pay attention to because it's going to affect your life every day. They want you emotionally sucked in. They want you thinking about his wife and his kids. That's done by design. We'll never know if he's alive or dead, really, but what we know is that this is a government operation. Very clearly. We have people out there saying it's a false flag. They really killed him. He turned on Israel. That's fine if you want to believe that. There's others like me who believe when he was rushed into that SUV that he was taken where everybody else goes, to be unaccounted for over in Israel, likely bunking up with Jeffrey Epstein and the other people who they fake kill off so that you emotionally get invested in their psychological operations. Pull yourself out. I understand it's easy to get sucked in. I understand it's easy to want to believe that the stuff you see on the news is real, but that's how they get everybody. Look how people are reacting. Remind yourself of that these are controlled events. Do not worry about if the man was really killed or he wasn't killed. It's not about that. As crazy as that sounds, these are actors who are acting. They are unlikely taking one another out unless that person crosses another, unless there is a bigger goal to achieve. And there is a bigger goal to achieve. These laws and rules are going to bring in, including red flag laws and biometric surveillance. So come with me now. Pull yourself out. Take a deep breath, okay? Let's look at this from a psychological standpoint. They've released the image of the shooter, right? He's got a shirt. We see the American flag on. Of course we do. He's wearing a shirt with the American flag. When we get a better look at the shirt, we'll see what's engraved inside of that American flag. But read between the lines here. The FBI releases images of person of interest in the shooting. Authorities are asking for the public's help in identifying the person as the manhunt for Kirk's killer continues. A rifle and ammo, were found. FBI releases images of person of interest. They announced a $100,000 reward. So they're calling on the public to find this guy. People are going, does anybody know this guy's on the loose? And maybe potentially, which I doubt, but there's always the potential that this guy goes and shoots somebody else, because that would really be the coup de grace, or whatever they call the coup de grace of this. If he goes and shoots somebody else because they didn't apprehend him in time. Because this is about biometric surveillance. So if something happens with this guy, everyone's going to blame the police and say they didn't get him in time. They called in the people to help. Nobody could recognize him because he was in a costume. But you know what to recognize him? Facial recognition, right? And what's that big, beautiful bill all about? The big, beautiful bill that Donald Trump passed and everybody was complaining, oh, what's in the beautiful bill? How much tax money do we have to spend? Nobody's paying attention that the big, beautiful bill was based off of AI surveillance, funding biometric surveillance and AI tech. Trump is all in on AI governance infrastructure. He shows you every day. The Golden Dome he's talking about building. It's not a missile defense system. It's surveillance 24/7, no escape, 1984. And just look at the stuff with Palantir. Palantir workers, former workers condemning the company's work with Trump administration. Trump is in bed with Palantir. Palantir is the enemy of the state. They are the all-seeing eye. They are Big Brother. And you're going to hear more Palantir in the mainstream as they boost their stock up, because they want people to look at Palantir as if it's saving the day. And that's what the conservatives are doing right now, right? How do we know they're doing that? Well, because they've told us that ICE is using Immigration OS by Palantir, an AI system to track immigrants' movements. And every day we're hearing about how immigrants are getting deported, how they're finding immigrants who have already committed crimes, who are illegals, and they're deporting them. Thanks to what? Thanks to tech, thanks to Big Brother, thanks to Palantir. So they're applauding it. Now just imagine we start shifting with this story towards that. We can't find the shooter. Maybe we'll call on Palantir to put that image through their database and bring up the person of interest and who he is, and then they'll be able to go and apprehend him. That's what it's going to lead to. We're going to hear about why it's taking so long. There's two reasons that it's taking so long. One, it builds suspense, which sucks people deeper into the psychosis. Number two, it's giving people this feeling of, why haven't they caught him? What is the problem? Can we trust these people in the FBI? These same people, the ones against Trump? Are they the ones who were trying to get him in prison? Maybe we need something faster and quicker, because what if this guy goes and shoots another conservative speaker? Maybe he will. Maybe he has by the time this gets uploaded. Maybe it'll already be news. Think about those things as we move forward. The tech giant Palantir is helping the U.S. government monitor its citizens. It wants to monitor its citizens. So the buildup of suspense right now, if you look up anything, ask Google, ask Brave, ask whatever search engine you're using. Ask them about writing a story or a movie and how important the buildup of suspense is. Buildup of suspense significantly increases reader engagement, right? By creating tension, anxiety, emotional investment, making them eager to discover what happens next. Do you see the response that's going on right now? Do you see it? Do you see how many people are losing their minds over this guy that they've never met because they're in the internet psychosis, the social media psychosis? Some guy they've only heard speak online that they think is their friend because he speaks like they do, he talks like they do, and he's speaking for them, right? They are deep in the psychosis. Do you know how many people have come back to the website since this has happened? Because people are going, I need to find out what's happening because of the suspense of it all. The buildup, who's behind it? Why did it happen? Is it real? Is it not? But most importantly to the deep state, to Big Brother, this buildup of suspense brings people in. It's basic psychology. It's people who write books, who write movies. That's what they do to you when you read a book of fiction or you watch a movie. The more there's a buildup towards that end, that climax, the more engaged you are in the story. So that's why all these headlines are saying things like, manhunt underway for gunman who killed Charlie Kirk. Manhunt continues, right? Everybody's looking around going, where is this guy? Oh, and then finally, they release an image of him. But before they release an image, they want to remind you of all these other things so they could build this up in your mind, who they're going to present to you as the shooter, because it's very clear. Everybody out there already thinks that the shooter's transgender. Do they not? Well, that's done by design, right? Kirk was answering a question about transgender mass shooters seconds before he was shot. They wanted you to know that right away. The first video I did on this, I played you the news clip. He was talking about, we just got word Charlie Kirk has been shot, they said on Fox News.
Just started getting word just a couple of moments ago that Charlie Kirk has been shot. We have very few details so far coming in on this. We're dependent on witnesses. Utah Valley University. And he was speaking in front of a crowd. And in that moment, and correct me if I'm wrong, he was speaking about obviously trans issues in the country today. When a shot or shots rang out, and we can now confirm via Jason Chaffetz, who was at the event at Utah Valley University, that shots rang out as Charlie was talking about transgender mass shootings.
We just got word, oh my goodness, and he was talking on stage, and he was talking about who cares about what he was talking about if he was just shot? No, you want everyone to know he was talking about transgender. So people are automatically in their head, they're saying the shooter's likely transgender. Well, transgender shooters are going after conservatives and kids in church, right? So they wanted you to know that that's what he was discussing, the irony of it all, because it's a scripted story. Then what did they tell you? The breakthrough in the hunt, a college-age suspect. The media releases little info at a time, right? The media this morning starting reporting, it's a college-age suspect. Well, yesterday it was an old man, right? People weren't reacting the way you would expect. They were just going, who is this old guy? I didn't cover it when I saw it because I was waiting because they have to cover it, so you know where they're going with it. They waited. People looked around. Who is it? Well, we do know he's in college. He's in college, right? Think about this whole setup that they've created over the last decade. It just started a decade ago with Charlie Kirk, Steven Crowder, these guys who go on college campuses and get in people's faces and debate them. Now, they're not literally in their faces. There's nothing wrong with having a debate. This is a CIA operation. They've built this whole thing up, and people see it, and then they attend it. Look at the size of the crowds that are going to these things so they could debate these guys. But done by design. So they want you to know it's a college-age kid. Kirk was talking about transgender. And then, of course, the next calling card of the government, they want you to know it was a high-powered rifle that was recovered. Well, I'm shocked. I can't believe it. I thought it was going to be a BB gun. Yeah, they recovered a high-powered rifle. And then what do they tell you next? No, they leak the story, can't find the guy yet, but they want to build the suspense up in your mind. Well, the ammunition, this is from the Wall Street Journal, the ammunition in the shooting was engraved with transgender anti-fascist ideologies, right? You gotta love how these guys leave their weapon behind too. Right? I mean, is this classic? You know, I get it. If you get shot and killed, or they supposedly off themselves, they leave their. This guy just dropped his gun on the roof and ran. He didn't think, hey, maybe I need this gun to protect myself or something like that. Maybe I can get rid of the gun so that if they arrest me, they can't prove that I was a shooter because they couldn't find the gun. That's what we hear about crime shows, right? Oh, we found the guy. He's definitely the guy, but we can't find the weapon. We need that evidence. So he just left the evidence for them, right? And I love this other notion of all these guys who want to go and do these things, leaving calling cards, writing it engraved. Whoever has heard of such a thing, how would you even engrave in a gun? Right? I mean, how do you engrave it? I mean, that's a lot of work. So they're engraving in the gun, so they want everyone in the media to talk. Of course they are, because it's a government operation. So they want you to know, is he a Democrat or a Republican? Well, they're letting you know. Transgender, okay, we know Democrats. Democrats are violent. We need to get their guns. We need to fight them. This is war. That's the narrative that you're hearing out there. And of course, there's other things that trickle in as we continue to wait in suspense. Not that I'm suspenseful about it, but we know that it's coming because this is how they work. This is when you're not in the matrix, you watch and you know what's coming. You can predict it. It's a predictable system, right? How about guys like this, the quartering, Justice for Charlie Kirk? This is all over Rumble. Rumble, I'm putting some of these videos up on Rumble because I'm trying to infiltrate the hive mind. I'm trying to get in there and get people to start thinking. They don't want it. They want to believe that this is real. They want to believe that the stuff that they're told is real. And that's the problem. They don't want you to question the news. That's the only reason people like me are silenced. That's it. Am I better than anybody else? It's that mindset of talking about the news being manufactured directly from the Mossad. It's more than Operation Mockingbird. It's the stories themselves. It's easy to get sucked in. You turn these stories on, of course you get sucked in. Oh, he's got a wife and kids. Well, who wouldn't get sucked in? You have to constantly remind yourself, as if you were in, a room with a psychologist or somebody who was trying to brainwash you, right? To stay awake, stay alert. Like say you got abducted in your room, they're trying to brainwash you. Say, oh, don't fall for it. That's how you have to be 24/7 because the media is constant. They're constantly coming after us. So here's the quartering. Look at these key things that they're putting out there. Mass firings for those who celebrate. Now, for those of you that remember, I don't want to say I told you so, but what I will say is that I did say in 2016, 2017, when I was getting canceled, the beginning days, and I still was able to make new channels and build them out. What did I say? I said, Democrats, don't cancel Republicans. Don't do it. Based on opinions. Don't cancel me. I'm not a Republican. Don't cancel me because you don't like me. Just turn it off. Turn it off. Because the government wants this. They want you to cancel one another's free speech. They want you to cancel one another's right to earn. We all saw it during COVID. You're not vaccinated, you can't have a job. Well, this is what it's gotten to. The Republicans are even more psychotic, or just as much. I guess if we went into a time machine, we'd say, well, it's pretty even, because right now we're not feeling the heat as much from Democrats, right, or liberal, hive minders, just conservative hive minders. Fire people who celebrate Charlie Kirk's behavior. If that doesn't say behavioral control, tell me what does. That's what this is about. Larry Fink, behavioral control. Palantir CEO, Alex Karp. We want to control people's behaviors. What a convenient, it's very convenient that Alex Karp and Palantir not only want to bring in monitoring of every single human being in America, on Earth, really, of course, is global. They want to bring in monitoring, surveillance, and they want to be able to control your behavior. How are they going to do that? But by punishing you based on your behavior. And look how people are already enforcing it for them. Now the conservatives, under such mind control, are so upset that a guy they never met who was their hero was shot supposedly with no evidence. You don't get to see the biopsy. You just get to see it on a TV screen or someone's cell phone. You have to believe it's real, right? That's like me going to a set of a movie with my cell phone and filming it, and you not knowing that I'm on a movie set because I'll film it where you don't see the lights and the cameraman, and then blasting that on social media. Say, I just saw this in the streets. Somebody shot in the streets. Wouldn't some people question it because they didn't see it on the news? They'd be like, I don't know if that's real. It's not on CNN. It's not on the mainstream news. Who is this guy that's posting this saying it's real? It kind of looks like a movie set. That's exactly what they would do. But because it's on the news, they think it's real. And behavioral control's in full effect. Because mass firings for those who celebrate. Could that be more behavioral control? You celebrate, you say, good, I'm glad he's dead. I mean, how many times in your life before 10 years ago would you have said, I'm good, I'm glad he's dead? I mean, as Christians, you don't like to say stuff like that. But let's be real. I mean, there's definitely been a time where someone who you couldn't stand, who was wronged, who was dying, you're like, good, I don't care. And maybe you thought about it later, you're like, all right, I mean, fine. I don't really wish him dead, but right? You can't even wish somebody dead. You can't even say, I'm glad he's gone. This guy was trying to take my rights away, I'm glad he's gone, right? You cannot have a difference of opinion in this left-right hive mind. And now, mass firings for those who celebrate. Conservatives are calling for it. Just like I said, the seesaw. First the left cancel the right, now the right cancel the left. And we're all stripping each other of our rights. That's exactly how this game is played and why it's played. And some of the other stuff I posted in the forum, I just want to throw out there to show you how fake this is. Tom McDonald, who is this supposed massive artist. I mean, I've exposed him before. You see all the pictures of him wearing satanic shirts, doing the 666, pentagrams, Baphomet, even wearing Baphomet shirts. Tom McDonald, the MAGA crowd loves him because he got boosted up on YouTube, pretending to be censored during all this stuff with COVID. And he rapped and he said, at least there's a rapper, somebody out there speaking what we think, because all they were doing was shoving down the mainstream Hollywood, mainstream music industry down everyone's throat. That was done by design. Oh, here's Tom McDonald, alternative. I'm sick of seeing Eminem bash Trump. I'm sick of seeing Snoop Dogg bash Trump. Here's Tom McDonald, right? Yeah, here's Tom McDonald, who not only sucks, let's be real. I mean, if you're listening to this garbage, it's embarrassing. But Tom McDonald, less than 24 hours, has a song for Charlie. Wow, he must have stayed up all night. Then had his camera crew come in to film a nice little music video for him. And he says, yesterday in a violent act of cowardice, an assassin took Charlie Kirk's life. My heart goes out to his wife, his 2 children, and his millions of loyal supporters. All proceeds from this song will be donated. Rest in peace. I'm sure they will. Directly to Israel, right, Tom? Give me another break. 24 hours, right? And if you know all this stuff that I've discussed, right? And I've mentioned Wag the Dog so many times, Wag the Dog showing you how they manufacture the news, how they manufacture war. Always showing this stuff in movies, so you think that it's never actually happening in reality, right? That's what it's all about. That's how mind control works. So what do they show you, Mike the Dog? Well, as soon as they have to build up this character, this hero, they got a song about him, the Shoe Man, bringing Willie Nelson to sing the song. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. And here he is, Tom McDonald with a song in 24 hours. Incredible. Must be really talented. That's what everyone will say. As if Tom didn't know ahead of time, right? Yeah, Tom's really talented. He stayed up all night, and he had a production crew ready, and you want to get this out today, less than 24 hours later. Sure. I mean, if you were born yesterday, you would believe that. So you have to decide at this point. You have to decide. Do you want to be looked at as somebody who, I'd rather be looked at as, wow, you think everything's fake? Well, let's see. If you believe in all these people controlling all the things that they control, why in the world would you believe that stories like this are real when they're so mainstream and they have such a huge effect on people, where you know that things like red flag laws are coming when they tell you that the shooter's trans? And they say, that's it. We need to put red flag laws in. Trans people can't have guns. They're psychopaths. They're mentally ill. It's perfect. It's a perfect storm, and it's a perfect story. And I tip my hat to them. Right? I mean, I saw it coming, but I tipped my hat to them. Because they said, let's do all this stuff. We're going to make people trans. We're going to tell them it's good to be trans. If all the celebrities turn our kids trans, right? And we're going to tell the people out there that are like, what? We're going to tell them that they're crazy. And that's what they did for years. You're crazy to think that they have mental health problems. How dare you? And now they're showing you, oh my gosh, look, all these shooters are trans. They're going, we told you they're crazy. They got all worked up, giving all the rights to the trans, trying to give lap dances to kids in schools. Perfect. So now the conservatives who said they would never be in for Donald Trump and red flag laws when he tried to push them in 2016, what are they saying? They're saying we got to get guns away from trans. It's a perfect storm. Once the red flag law is in place and everyone accepts it, then it's just a matter of, well, who's the president or not? Put Newsom in. In 2020, I keep saying it, put him in. He'll tell you right now. I mean, he pretty much says it when he speaks. The real mental health people are not trans people. They're perfectly normal. It's conspiracy theorists. People think we could modify the weather, that climate change is a deep state agenda. People who think these shootings are fake. Those people have mental health problems, right? And then he changes the law, and says people like us can't have guns. And what's the response going to be? Well, people like us are going to go, no, you're not getting our guns. They go, no, it's a federal law now. No, we'll take it to the state level. Oh, so we'll have to live in red states, right? Like Florida or Texas. Well, they'll protect us, and then they can hurt us like cattle, which is what they're doing. That's part of what this civil war is all about. It's not about riding down the road in tanks, growing our mustaches out, and grabbing batons or whatever, and fighting one another in the street. Sure, there's going to be stories of that. It's about moving us around and hurting us, and then putting us in places where we could really be hit with weather modification, right? They get us all down to Florida and Texas, and then hit us with hurricane after hurricane. Nobody will know what's going on, and you can kill us that way, right? Because we have conservative mindset, conservative ideologies. And when they tell you that the red flag laws are going to be used against you, that's the type of thing that will get people to go to red states who have guns. You know what else will be? When they tell you need to get vaccinated again. And the red states say, we don't have to do it here. And the blue states say you can't have a job if you live here. This is the overreach we've allowed them to have because of their control of the minds of the masses, and it's all through the news. And these are all actors playing their part. I can't emphasize that enough. I can't emphasize it enough to you. If you're out there and you're going, I don't know, is it real, is it not? I'm getting different opinions from different people. Look, if he's dead or not, does it affect your life? Did you know him personally? No. You knew the image portrayed online of Charlie Kirk, right? I get it. He posts all this stuff about Jesus. You don't think that's to suck you in? You don't think that's to make you go, oh my goodness, right? I even saw on CNN, they were trying to describe Charlie Kirk, right? And they said, an evangelical Christian, Kirk embraced more religious themes in recent years. Well, that's real convenient. And now he's gone. Because the last couple of years, we've seen them emphasize, and put Christianity in the spotlight with Trump, yoking them up. We're yoking conservatives up with the Republican Party, right? Pretty incredible. Divine intervention, all these narratives that we've heard. Yeah, you don't think he was acting to pull you in emotionally? Pull yourself out. Whether he's dead or alive, it shouldn't affect you because you don't really know him. Unless you're his wife and he's really dead and you're upset about it. But guess what? It's highly unlikely. Will they kill one of their own? Of course they will. How many times have I discussed Mozart? Nobody knows Mozart was a 33rd degree Mason. One of the most famous musicians still. Everybody knows that it's a household name, Mozart. Beethoven, right? Mozart was whacked because Mozart started giving away the secrets of the secret societies pre-internet. He started speaking against them. He started turning on them. They had to make an example of Mozart. They said, Mozart can't be around no more. Mozart has too much power now. Too much influence. We have to get rid of him. That's why you see that famous picture still of the dog following Mozart's casket and no friends attending Mozart's funeral. And they go, that's real sad. Why didn't nobody attend? Well, I just told you why nobody attended. Because the same people who were his friends are the ones who killed him. Because they were the same members of the same club. And you're not in it. I can promise you that. So if you think for 1 second that it's real, I've already provided things that should make you question it. The shirt going up, the distance, from where the shooter is, the guys behind him who gave hand signals. If you haven't seen my previous videos, go through it. The predicted program of South Park, him getting jumped and making a big deal about him being on South Park and getting attacked on South Park a couple of weeks ago, right? The connection with South Park and Columbine, how they were in that documentary that everybody saw. It was the first time they were calling for gun control in the NRA, making Charlton Heston look like a schmuck, but Charlton Heston was in on it too, because he's a Mason too. Sorry to burst your bubble, because Charlton Heston was in Moses or whatever else he was in. They're all in on it, folks. Their job is to hurt us and to mentally manipulate us into enslaving ourselves. And that's what we're doing by believing in their story. So pull yourself out. It's easy. I get it. You turn it on somewhere else. He's got a wife. He's got 2 kids. Every one of them saying it. Think about his wife, his 2 kids. How can these people say they're glad he's dead? He's got a wife and 2 kids. How can you say he's got a wife and 2 kids? Oh, yeah. Right. How many serial killers? Didn't the BTK killer, he had a wife and kids, right? People calling for the death penalty on him. Everybody was, right? That's deservedly so. He murdered people, supposedly. I'm sure he was connected to the CIA in some way, right? But now you can't even question anything. You can't say you want someone dead. You can't have an opinion that isn't the opinion of the left or the right. It's 2 opinions. If you have a different one, they want you out because they control both sides. They don't control this side. They don't control me. They don't control any of you. So again, if you're falling for the trap, just remind yourself. Would you rather be looked at as crazy for all these people who go, you're saying that it's not real? Because that's how they're going to respond. That's how they're trained. Tell your friend, it's not real. I don't think it's real. And if it is real, it's part of a plan. Oh, you're a conspiracy. You're crazy. You're losing it, man. Yeah. Would you rather be called crazy and have somebody think you're losing it? Or would you rather be a sucker like the rest of these people? Because that's what they are. They're suckers. Complete suckers who refuse to question what they're seeing in front of them because they don't realize that every single thing that they do has a purpose. They show it to you for a reason. They talk about it for a reason. They're manipulating you 24/7. We'll continue with this psychological operation known as Charlie Kirk's assassination as more becomes available. Hope you enjoyed these videos. Share it with people if you're finding this somewhere other than the website. It's important that people become aware of these things and start thinking. That's what's missing. No one's thinking. And it's because They think when they go to the movies, they're watching fiction. They don't leave the movie going, man, crying about Batman and the Joker or whatever. Maybe they are. I mean, people are so pathetic these days. But they don't leave and they get right back to their life. Oh, okay, I got work in the morning. I'm going to go back to my life. Well, with stuff like this, they need to look at it the same way. Why wouldn't you warp people's perception of reality if you want to manipulate them? Make them think that these things are happening to people who are just like them. And we need to do something about it because he spoke for you. He was a patriot for you. He was a Christian like you. Now you need to call for these trans people that have red flag laws so that eventually we can use them on you. Thank everybody for being here. Hope you're all doing well. God bless you and your families as always.